in about a month's time he might find himself on the right wing. So,
not personally.
I guess my question here is to some of the minor parties. What kind of, could you see yourselves doing a deal with National Code?
You mean me or the party?
The party.
Alright, New Zealand First has 5 bottom lines. Renationalisation, end to race-based policy, stop selling the bloody farmland, Kiwi Fund, and retire at 65. If you guys think the National Party will renationalise assets or stop farmland being sold overseas, I've got some Genesis Energy shares to sell you.
So let's talk about one of those bottom lines, nationalising farmland or preventing the sale of that. Foreign ownership in New Zealand has been a pretty hot topic. So we know that your government, Jack's been fine with it. We know that they allowed the sale of a range of different farms to overseas investors. We've heard the sale of a range of farms to overseas investors. Is this the kind of thing we can tolerate for much longer?
I think to speak of it as a trend war is to mischaracterise what's going on. I think every sale of the farmland needs to be looked at on its own individual merits, and each case is looked at on its own individual merits. The policies that the left is proposing in regards to this measure are just catering to that racist bloc of voters that do not want to see ownership of farmland by the Chinese. When you see James Cameron coming in and buying up South Island land, it's not reported.
It is objected to by us.
Let me tell you why, Curwen. It's because he is white.
You're the side of the bloody precedent and get me to Harvard University buying up our forestry land.
When you see the Chinese try to buy anything,
look, you've got Chinese on the break and it's not by you. We object to all foreign ownership of our productive assets.
I think it's about enough on foreign ownership from Curwen and Jack. But I'd like to hear the Maori Party's perspective. Is this something that's something that you guys have a view on?
It's in terms of Te Tiriti Waitami. The Crown owns Crown land, Maori own Maori land. We wouldn't be in favour of foreign ownership of the land of our tupuna. We wouldn't be in favour of that, no.
So will you not back the government who's doing it?
I'm guessing Louis' answer starts with private property rights and ends with the same words, but I'd like to hear it anyway.
Yeah, it's actually simply a matter of morals. If you own land, if a farmer owns his farm, then he should have the right to decide who to sell it to. It does not belong to the government, so we actually have to criticise National here. They say that they judge it on a cost-benefit basis on each individual farm. I would say it's actually a blanket measure. I mean, if you own land, it's a simple principle that you can decide who to sell it to. Now, the other issue with restricting foreign ownership is it encourages other countries to do the same. If we restrict foreign ownership of New Zealand, they will tighten their laws, and that will reduce the opportunities for Kiwis who are looking to invest overseas.
Right, so let's hear from the Greens on this one.
Two wrongs don't make it right.
We believe that you can sell the eggs but not sell the chickens.
And Kieran, so New Zealand lands in New Zealand hands?
Yeah, New Zealand hands should be in, New Zealand land should be in New Zealand hands. We think, actually, the way that we go about looking at the sale of land, this debate's been gone completely out of proportion. It's actually not xenophobic from the Labour Party to say that if you want to come here, regardless of your origin, and buy land, that is all good. But if you want to own that land from overseas, siphon the profits off, that's actually not what we're going to stand for. And so for us, it's about protecting the birthright of New Zealanders and those who come to live here as residents, to actually play a really big part in the direction of our economy and of our future. So that's why we think that we should really seriously restrict the ownership of land. Those people who live permanently offshore and who have no intention of coming here to live.
Something quite closely associated with land is the cost of housing as well, something that we should know pretty well in Auckland is going rising and rising every year. So I want to ask Kieran about the housing supply. Is it just to build 100,000 houses? Is that Labour's plan to deal with it? And is that something that's going to be subject to allegations of just middle class welfare?
Well, the thing is, so building 100,000 houses is a really big government-led project and we're really proud of. And the thing is that when we build all of these houses, firstly we're addressing the really chronic supply issue in New Zealand, and that's something that really needs to happen, is that there's such an imbalance that people can just come in and drive up the prices indiscriminately, and low-income families are just locked out of housing. for their whole lives. So the other part of that is that really it's not just middle class welfare in the sense that there will be state housing as a component of this bill, and there will also be, we'll be making sure very strongly that they are low cost bills, affordable bills for people to work towards, to own them realistically in their working lives. And that's really what we think it's about, is that New Zealanders, if they want to go out and save up for a deposit and then buy a house, that should be within their grasp, and that is what we're going for with Kiwi Vote.
The other side of the spectrum, how do we deal with houses, Jack? How does the National Party plan to do that if you're not going to build any more of them?
Well, Paul, it's a bigger, you need to take a broader perspective, and this is where the Labour Party lacks in pretty much every part of the policy package, is to actually take a look at the broader issue here. It's not just a matter of building 100,000 houses far removed from city centres as possible. A policy of gentrification. It needs to be a wholesale approach taken here, where you look at the bigger picture and we try and intensify urban areas to get as many people close to the CBDs as you can.
Right, and really what it is yourself, is it just more of the same, more intensification, less red tape?
I don't care if you build up or out. The basic fact is that we need more houses. But if you're having the government literally coming in and building houses for Kiwis, that means you've got something seriously wrong with your regulations. In a growing economy, like New Zealand has, you should have houses popping up all over the place. The fact that we currently don't means that the RN8 and regulations such as the urban-rural boundary are serious barriers to housing development in New Zealand. We'd abolish these, or at least severely reform them, to make more housing available.
You heard it here first, folks. The ACT Party wants a property bubble. Now, New Zealand First... Okay, cool. Thank you, Paul, for letting me speak. New Zealand First policy on the shortage of housing is quite simple. We don't trust the private sector to remedy the shortfall by itself. We're going to instill a building code that is appropriate to New Zealand conditions, and we are also going to have a massive SOE that is going to directly intervene in the housing market. Through land banking and other mechanisms like this will be a cheap solution to provide social housing.
Bureaucracy and red tape from you, Curwen.
Bureaucracy and red tape, my
There you go again, another government entity. Good on you. Solved everything.
Right, so
Not if it's your government, it won't.
I guess you know again that Jack and Curwen won't agree. But one last thing is that even though we've all got different ideas on the stage, we've got 6 passionate people that we know are voting. But we know that around 42% of people aged 18 to 24 didn't vote in the last election. So I want to ask each person up on the stage, why do you think it is that young people these days are so disengaged from politics? Is it something that we're doing? Is it something that they're doing in Parliament? And how does your party fix that, or how do you think they should fix that? And we'll start with TeRata.
Anyone that turns on Parliament TV, and this is not a personal take on YouTube, but they see that sort of stuff. They see the arguing and it's sort of boring for rangatahi to watch. And they're just like, what is it all about? Well, fuck those arguing people down in Wellington. It's got nothing to do with me. That's one thing. The second thing is the Electoral Commission needs to firm up on the fact that enrolment is really important. And political parties need to have really strong youth wings. Yes, we've got some really good things in terms of some parties, but all of them, us included, that's a really big one. And we have to have youth-focused policies, and it has to be relevant to real life. When I go out and door knock, the people there at their doors, they're worried about, I want to feed my kids, I want to take my kids to school, and I want gas in my car. They're not worried about, who's your candidate, how you want to Maori or generally wrong. So there's all of these different issues that are coming on systemically that need to be addressed. Electoral Commission, political parties, government, but all communities need to realise women fought for the vote, Maori fought for the vote, youth need to as well. Kill it.
Well, I disagree with my friend that it really comes down to the formal procedure of Parliament. Look, as it should be, that is a tried and true tradition of our Westminster system, and it didn't alienate students 50 years ago, and it shouldn't now. What I think you can put the causes down to is two things. Firstly, the students themselves, and secondly, the political parties. I'm going to discuss each in turn. With regard to the
blame everybody else.
With regard to the students, Curwen, look, I think we are a generation of apathy. I think we are a generation of apathy in regard to many more things than our political system. It is not just politics. But where I think the primary responsibility for changing this falls is on the parties themselves and the Electoral Commission. What I'm hearing is that the Electoral Commission really is achieving targets and getting as many young people enrolled as possible. But what I would say is that at the end of the day, it all comes down to the parties themselves. From my perspective, we really need to communicate to people my age how we are working for New Zealand and working for them. And I think we are, because I am proud to sit here as a member of the largest youth political wing in this country. We are very proud to be part of that, and we will be come September 20th as well.
You guys are here now from what might be the smallest youth wing in the country, New Zealand First. How do you think that...
Smallest youth wing in the country? Well, at least we're the bloody well loudest.
Well, it's just you, Curwen, so it's not...
Would you like to take a look at my comrades over here with their rosettes in the audience holding the bloody big New Zealand First signs? You see this national duplicity? They're trying to pretend we don't exist. Youth wing? These guys are bloody young. How do you think they are? Anyway, to answer the actual question, the reason why youth aren't voting is because parties like National have done everything in their power to make turnout seem like a bad idea. They benefited last time, from the lowest turnout since the 1870s, and they'll try and do so again this year. Remember, there is a genuine choice on September 20th, and vote for the party that will actually put you and your interests first. Youth wings are a vital and integral part of fostering youth engagement. Send them a bloody message, even if you tick internet mana, to make sure they take you seriously. Thank you.
Let's hear from Trish now. So, is it partisan politics that's turning youth off at the moment, or what else?
A lot of things. I think that we are provided with enough education during high school about our electoral commission, about how politics works in this country. And so when we turn 18, we're like, what do we do? Who do we vote for? What's going on? I watched the news and I didn't like that person. Should I vote for the other person? We don't know. So I sort of feel like it's about having more young representation, and I'm really proud to say that the Green Party has consistently run young candidates, myself included, and we also always have young MPs as well, because I think it's important as a young person to watch Parliament TV, watch young MPs in there doing things and actually standing with integrity and not just filibustering and talking, arguing with other parties. I think young people need to feel valued, and our party has consensus-driven policy, and young people actually help to make our policy, and that's really important as well.
So if we're talking about rivalry and petrol in terms of loss, is there something that other parties complicit in along with National, or do you think it's a way past it?
It's absolutely the case that there is a little bit too many there are far too many distractions in politics, and that is not good for anyone to want to turn out and vote. But to be honest, I think the biggest solution to getting people to turn out and vote is getting out in the grassroots and talking to people. When I go to a lot, I've been to Mangere, I've been to Mananeo, I've been to Pointing, I've been to Massey, I've been around Auckland Central with this low enrollment for the also disintegrated universities now. The thing we hear when we talk to these people who are very unlikely to vote is they go, it's been really good to hear from you and to hear from a candidate and to actually have a genuine conversation.
How well is it working for David Cummins?
And to have a genuine conversation about things that are really important rather than this kind of sledging that goes on over here. So that's what I think is people want to hear. They want to hear solutions, and they want to hear people talking about things that they care about, and that is what conversations on the doorstep are about, and that is why we, the Labour Party, are running the biggest grassroots campaign in our history, and we're very proud of that.
So, really lucky to ask, how does the ACT Party look to engage the youth voters, and what's the main problem with representation at the moment?
Well, firstly, we wouldn't rely on the likes of Lila Hari and Kim.com to swoop in and expect young voters to magically start supporting.
Is ACT no longer relying on Kim.com? What's changed?
Yeah, okay. It really is the job of young people to engage young people, which is so great to see young people here. we need to talk about issues that affect young people. I mean, Labour's latest health policy would put the drinking age up to 20. We need to talk about
That is patently false.
No, actually that's revealed today.
It's not Labour policy to put the drinking age to 20.
You would adopt, would you or would you not adopt the Law Commission's recommendation?
We will not raise the drinking age to 20.
Would you adopt?
Not raise the drinking age to 20 isn't clear enough for you.
Okay, Kieran here is contradicting David Cunliffe's
David Cunliffe's never been so sure of his caucus in his life, I'd say.
Look it up on the Kiwi blog today. They're going to raise the drinking age to 20.
The Kiwi blog right now is making somebody server.
There are other issues. Legalisation of weed. We need to talk about that. Nightclubs closing earlier and earlier and earlier. Young people need to talk about these issues that affect young people, and it's great to see us here doing that.
It is great to see a large turnout of young people here interested in politics and hearing a politician speak. So next up we have a bunch of MPs who are going to come and sit in the spotlights. So for now we've got the last question with the young backbenchers, and I'll give them about 20 seconds each just to tell us on September 20, do we need a change in government, and why or why not? We'll start with Louis.
I mean, ultimately, I don't think it actually matters all that much. I know it's travesty for me to say this as a coalition partner of the Nats, but every day it seems that the Nats are moving closer to Labour. Every policy that they've come up with in the last 2 weeks appears to either be a status quo policy or a left-wing policy. We've got 2 left-wing parties now that are in the centre. To be honest, I don't think that we have a real choice. You've got to vote for an alternative such as that.
I mean, it's really, really important that we change the government to a strong Labour-led government on September 20th. Labour Party has the solutions, we have the positive visions, we have the policy, and we have the team that can do it. Your lower power bills, your warmer, healthier homes, your more accessible university, your better public transport, all of these things that you care about, and we will deliver in government, and we have a record of delivering in government, and we promise that we will do it again. So vote for change on September 20th for a strong Labour-led government.
Let's hear from Trish now from the Greens. Changing government?
I just think that you should vote. You should just vote. I mean, vote wherever you want, but just make sure you vote. And if you happen to want to see a fairer society, a cleaner environment, and a smarter economy, then vote for the Greens. Party vote Green. But just like, no matter what, vote and get all of your friends to vote too.
And good. The last 20 seconds of youth backbenchers.
I'll know you count, don't worry. Alright, everybody in this room knows how much I like Black Green 2014, but New Zealand First will work with any party that will renationalise and stop the sale of farmland and a few other things. But tonight, I'd like to actually do a bit of campaigning for somebody else. Paging Paul Goldsmith. Are you in the room, sir? Right, Paul Goldsmith, want his hand up. Who's an absent voter in this room? Get your hands up. Who's going to be voting for Paul Goldsmith on September the 20th? There we go. We've got your back, Paul. Goldsmith, Goldsmith, Goldsmith. Thank you.
Let's hear from Jack Davies of the Young Nats. Would you be voting for Paul Goldsmith?
Kieran just mentioned a Labour-led government. I say that's a bigger joke than Winston's two wrongs don't make a right jive. What we need to vote for on September 20th is a strong, stable, national-led economy. We're aiming for $375 million surplus next year. We've invested $500 million in New Zealand animals. Kim.com, Russell Norman, David Cunliffe, Lila Hara, there's never been a bigger joke of a car since the Muppets hit Fraggle Rock.
Alright, finally, let's hear from TeRata.
I have to stand here because it's not about right and it's not about left. It's about you. True Maori Mai, that's us.
Vote left.
Alright, thanks everyone for sitting through the youth backbenches. We've got some MPs coming up in a couple of minutes, so stick around, grab some drinks, and cheers for coming along.